No idea. Thank you.
Do we want
Can you
the
see
AI
this?
companion as well?
My answer to that is always no, but what do I know?
I'll go ahead and do it because it does a quick summary, which is for whoever's taking notes. It's a nice crib
Okay,
sheet. It doesn't replace it.
Can you see the screen from there, Jen?
No, I'll move over, so make sure I can plug in. Okay. Were people able to look at the October and November meeting minutes?
Yes.
Yeah. My only request is, and this is a selfish one, and again, I have no idea who's taking notes, but could we spell my name correctly? Just for public record.
Purpose, John.
Go ahead.
It's spelled differently both times. It's Jonathan.
Oh, done. O-N.
An.
And
And then in one rendition, it's John, and it's supposed to be Jon.
Okay. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Anything else on minutes that we need to adjust?
I don't recall private office being mentioned as an option, but it's in the mixed use. Oh, in terms of not individual mixed office, but I think it should be clarified that it's sort of a WeWork type of thing we were talking about, not an individual's private office. At least that's the assumption that I had.
Well, we have at points talked about an individual office rental. In particular, because Becky Jones has said all along she'd be happy to move out of where she is now into something else.
Oh, okay.
It's
I
always-
must have missed that. I apologize.
That's all right.
I would just say, and, you can do a co-working space, and many co-working spaces provide short-term and mid-term rentals of like a small office
Mhm.
as part of it. A lot depends upon your overall size. So I think it's how you want to look at it. So I don't think that's necessary. A co-working option doesn't preclude rental of a short, of a small office. Though that does reduce your available space for others participating in co-working. And so we can talk more when I go through the scenarios if you want.
Okay, anything else on minutes? And we have two sets. Are we losing the word I want? Are we approving them?
Yes.
Any objections? Okay,
No.
okay. So is there anything we need to talk about before moving into Kathy's report? Thank you for what you sent us, Rich.
Did you guys get a better chance? Everybody get a copy of the document I sent? There's
Yeah,
a
Rich.
summarization of a conversation I had at Area Brooks about the Elmer's store in Ashfield.
when did you send?
Last night, I
Last
thought,
night.
yesterday. So Rich sent us a very interesting information about, what the Elmer store in Ashfield has been turned into. Which is a really interesting community
I like it.
space.
You should have a copy.
So I thought he sent it to everyone.
Well, I
It was
checked my computer this morning. So
fine. I looked at it last night, but it's,
I didn't see it, I'm pretty sure.
Do you want me to recap?
yeah,
So I had a conversation with Ariel Brooks through, and she is a founding member of the Elmer's community, it's a 501c. Way the system worked for that building is the building is 180, 190-year-old building. It's been in Ashfield for years. It's had a number of incarnations over the years, and it's largely been in private hands for the time. The upstairs has two residential rentals, each 1 bedroom. The downstairs has either had a deli in it or a community store, place you can have breakfast and things of that nature. What they ended up doing is the building came up for auction, and a number of people who realized the value of the building got together, and they worked very hard at trying to secure funds privately for purchase of the building, and were able to successfully do so. On that, they moved to create the space. So they have the 2 rentals upstairs. They're improving the space, and right now, when it started, the rentals were about $500 a piece, and they're trying to move it up to a more affordable, about $1,100 per unit. The average unit cost in Massachusetts for a single bedroom for the Franklin County, or for that area in Ashfield, is about $1,400 and some change per unit. So they're trying to stay under the average so they can keep it an affordable space. They also rent the downstairs with a shared use agreement with a company that's listed in the notes. And what that company does is they work from Monday. They're open from Friday to Monday, 7 o'clock in the morning to 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and they have breakfast and coffee and things of that nature. And what the community, or what the organization did, was they surveyed the population during a number of the events in town, and they found out that most people wanted to have either breakfast available to them, or they really liked the idea of at one point there was a deli in there. And so they were really interested to either have supporting it with a deli, support the center of town, or the breakfast option, and which they were able to do with this new business that came in. They did a lot of the renovations, or some of the beginning renovations they did with the help of a contractor in town who was able to file permits, and they were able to use volunteers to do, like, fix the front porch and things of that nature. So that worked out very well for them. Further, they were able to get grants, underutilized property grant, I'm sure that you're familiar with. And they were somewhere under the just over $300,000 for additional repairs of the building. So right now they're renting out to the company for the 4-day work week that they're using. And they also use some of that kitchen space because there was already a pre-existing kitchen, but they had to upgrade the kitchen. They've made the share use agreement, so they have, at the town, or this community group has access to the space on off times after 2 o'clock throughout the week, and other times during the week when they're not open. And what it allows for, you can see in some of their descriptions on the website, is it allows for a community space that anybody can rent and use. So if they want to use a community space for providing, doing a program, they could use programs. They have they want to rent a space to do a birthday party or a wedding or something to effect. They have access to the facilities. It provides a lot of opportunity for the people in Ashfield to have a shared space that is available to everybody for a number of different reasons. So it's a really interesting concept that they put together. The 2 things that I see that are different from what we're doing is their building was already pre-existing and largely together. They had modifications and repairs that need to be done on it, but not to the extent that we have. The other issue that I see is they already have 2 pre-existing residences in the upstairs, although we have potential for that in our space. They have town septic and sewer, so that's something we don't have. There are pluses and minuses to the concept that they have versus what we have, but it's interesting model for us to consider. Along with all the other things that we're considering for the space. And I wanted to bring that to the floor so everybody had an opportunity to peruse the conversation that we had. Kathy and
Would you resend maybe
I did.
resend whatever notes you had, because
Yeah, I did.
I have a hard copy here.
I just checked and, it was sent to everybody and that there's a link. Didn't send it till 8 o'clock last. night.
Yeah, I'm sorry for getting it out.
No,
late
you
there.
found it, that's great. There is a link. That's what he sent, was a link, and I just put it in the minutes now, so
But
you'll have it one
Okay.
way or the other.
all right, on top of that, Kathy and I had conversations concerning the kitchen in Greenfield. Kathy has arranged to have a meeting there on site, 7th of January. Anybody else wants to be involved, that would be wonderful. I did have a conversation with a Caitlin, I think it was, who runs the site. The site no longer works as an independent kitchen for hire, in the sense that you can't go there and rent a kitchen anymore. What they do is they're a point use producer. So if a farmer wants to bring basil, they'll turn it into pesto for them and give it back. And then if they want to process squash, they'll process it, give it back. So that's what that kitchen has been using. But Kathy did find other places that have this similar model as Elmer's. But they're, if I understand correctly, they're more town oriented versus this being a 501c.
I'll just follow up on that. The Franklin County CDC, their venture center was originally a multi-purpose space that included the food processing and timeshare kitchen, and then also startup space for other businesses. And it sounds like they've gone more to almost a co-packing model where they're providing services to existing entrepreneurs and farm value-add businesses. That's probably a more profitable one for the CDC, to be perfectly honest about it. It's interesting, one of the largest timeshare kitchens in the Commonwealth is called Commonwealth Kitchen. It's a Boston-based one. And they do both the entrepreneur support, but also that co-packing services. It's another, it's like once you get your business operating, let someone else do the, operations, and you can grow the business, the marketing and the other pieces of the business. There are some other co-packers. There's a co-packer, Chubby's in Bernardston, that they operate their own, but they will take contract work as well. That's the one that I know. I mean, because in really the Pioneer Valley, I think there's another one perhaps in Springfield. But the two other nearby timeshare kitchens that are in Mass Department of Agriculture's resource inventory. One that are in the Franklin County areas. One is Wendell, and Wendell made a timeshare kitchen out because they had an existing kitchen in their town hall. They upgraded it, and Wendell tends to use their town hall for a lot of different things. I know they do square dancing periodically there. They also then have changed this to a commercial kitchen. They have a standing community kitchen committee, and where you can rent by the hour or rent by the day. There's a rate for Wendell residents versus non-residents. But they used an existing kitchen. They did get a USDA grant and loan to help help pay for some of those improvements. Another kitchen that's in the but Wendell doesn't provide any kind of add-on support or services for people trying to start up a business or first getting started on doing value-added products for farmers markets, that kind of, nurturing of, startup people does not exist. So their timeshare kitchen is open to caterers, people, who are doing farm value add, as well as, anyone who's a startup entrepreneur or people who want to do a one-time event. Then the Haydenville, Community Church, and I'm not sure sure it's a church in Haydenville, and I'm not sure how many are in Haydenville, to be honest. But they have a licensed commercial kitchen that can be leased, by the day or hour, but it's kind of like, this is what we have, you can come and use it, and it's a licensed commercial kitchen. I don't think there's any additional services available, it's just that it is a commercial grade certified kitchen. So, which is not that far from here. So that's something to consider. They did not appear to have extensive amount of equipment. Because some of the things with timeshare kitchens is you kind of really do want some walk-in freezer capacity, probably, major level of refrigeration and a fair amount of equipment. So they obviously have some equipment, and there's also storage. So those options aren't available, but if you need like a catering kitchen, that's probably a good place for it.
It sounds like if I can jump in, to me, it sounds like the space wouldn't necessarily carry such a large kitchen, but a smaller kitchen for catering and things of that nature almost seems like in small production, almost seems reasonable.
So, but those are nearby, and there's also Franklin County CDC's mentioned that Holyoke has a timeshare kitchen, Grand Cucina.
Yeah.
I'm probably mispronouncing it.
Find it, I've got it
Over
right
on
here
High
somewhere.
Street in Holyoke.
What's the difference between a commercial grade kitchen, a catering kitchen, and a timeshare kitchen?
All three need to pass commercial Board of Health standards and Massachusetts regulations for commercial grade kitchens. So that's kind of the bottom line, that kitchens that focus on catering may allow one-time use or periodic use by caterers. And depending upon it, sometimes that's just to prepare food one time, but if it's consistent, you're gonna need food storage and refrigeration before preparation. So, in terms of a timeshare kitchen, and one other thing on catering kitchen, some restaurants will allow caterers to use their kitchen in off hours as a way to get another revenue stream. So that, so that's usually not very public, but that does happen.
Yeah.
A timeshare kitchen is often operated by a kind of publicly oriented, often nonprofit, though some are for profit, some are sponsored by municipalities or counties or other economic development type entities, where people can come and rent and use the equipment and space by the hour, or by the half day or by the day. And people, oftentimes with timeshare kitchens, there's also a support system for startup businesses. People just going from fixing stuff in their house and kind of selling it under the radar, or sometimes at farmers markets or to their neighbors, the next step is using a timeshare kitchen, because you can test out your ideas, learn how to make it, transfer a small recipe to a batch recipe. Sometimes there's technical assistance to help you with that. So being able to do the larger processing, and get up to scale and, see whether it works. So it's a step from going from in your home kitchen to a regular kitchen. Sometimes after people get to a level of scale, they might use co-processing and hire someone, and that's why some timeshare kitchens have also started that service.
How much does that cost to get into a timeshare kitchen?
Pardon me?
How much does that cost?
Using a kitchen can go from $30 an hour or more. Some timeshare kitchens require an initial membership, or they'll let you try it out for once. There's sometimes member rates and non-member rates.
So
Sometimes, you do it by the hour, but it's cheaper to do it by, I'll schedule a half day, or I'll schedule, and often timeshare kitchens operate morning, afternoon, evening, some do late evening or late at night, the 9 to midnight type thing. Well,
I know, I'm just, yeah.
We're
Not
still
me,
not-
but, yeah, well, I think.
well, if you're working full-time and trying to
No,
then,
no,
yeah.
I think Elmer's was $60 an hour less for members, if I remember what I read last night.
Where is it?
I've seen
That-
rental
yeah,
rates
yeah.
all over the map, and a lot depends upon how much equipment.
Ashfield.
Ash,
It's
oh, that's the one
the
you're
place
talking
Rich was talking about, yeah.
I've seen, I don't know about Elmer's, but, I think Haydenville's like $30 $15-30 an hour, but they don't have a lot of equipment.
Right,
So, and sometimes if you have more sophisticated equipment, there might be a charge for, that if you're wanting to do storage or freezer space. So
thank you, I was just wondering what the.
go ahead, Jonathan. I think you're on mute. You're on mute, Jonathan.
Sorry about that. This dovetails back to Rich's nonprofit idea. It seems to me that the kitchen concept, or any concept, really works perfectly with a nonprofit idea. And I say that only because we're sitting here as town committee members, subcommittee members, whatever we're called, and we're trying to figure out costs and revenue streams and uses. If we were to move this to find people who wanted to organize a nonprofit and go through the expense of filing nonprofit status, getting their C3, putting together a board, understanding that they are obligated to the public good, all the things that nonprofits work with, then they can come back to us with a business plan that includes maybe a timeshare kitchen, maybe whatever. And maybe our covenants could include, it would be great because if you're working with startups, you would have sort of not childcare, but mothers, helpers hired on an as needed basis, that type of thing, which I find very cool. But I more and more like the nonprofit idea because this puts it in with the covenants that we decide are appropriate for the building. It puts it in their court, again, within those guardrails that we create. But rather than us worrying about, a balance sheet and P&Ls for a separate organization, we should just decide what we want to do, who's going to manage it, and then let them put together the business plan.
Yep, I agree with you.
I've always thought that.
We just need to find a nonprofit that would be willing to take on this task.
Or a for-profit for that matter.
Or a
Yeah,
for-profit.
But I think this points out, and I would agree with you, that I think it's gonna require a partnership.
Yeah.
And having a for-profit or a nonprofit partner or partners. Because this committee, when I first met you, the issue was how do we save and reuse the building? And now we're getting into more specifics. And there's the operations piece, but before we get into the operations of like a timeshare, I was just trying to explain kind of like how they work in terms of the, Jenny's question. But if I was asked to look at, 3 to 4 scenarios, and we've done
They
that,
should
so
let you
I
present
want
yours.
to get back to it, but I think Jonathan's point is right on, and
Yeah.
that this can't be implemented without partners. You guys are not gonna be the operators of the co-working space or the timeshare kitchen or renting out senior housing or, figuring or affordable housing. You're gonna need a partner. And there are potential partners, but that takes, we're gonna have to talk to them and get that, get that started. So good news is, with the Thanksgiving and things going on in people's lives, Rich and I, didn't get to Franklin County CDC before today, but we've got a date on January 7th. So that, to go see them and they would be a potential partner. Whether or not they're interested, we don't know. It's good to see what they're doing, but certainly, they may be more able and interested to like, maybe they need a timeshare kitchen that's not at the venture center, so it could then feed new businesses for them. They certainly have the reputation and competence with the state, or at least that's my perception. And, John's been, John and I emailed separately that we're in commit, noting that we've been around a while. But that notion of, partnership, I think is gonna be critical.
It strikes me that the CDC would be more of a tenant partner as opposed to a nonprofit partner. I guess I sort of am of the belief that for this to really work, you need to find people who want to form their own nonprofit organization for this building, because then it's a dedicated best interest of my little nonprofit, and I say my in the pejorative sense, not nonprofit in Whately, and not have it as one of the domains that a larger nonprofit is responsible for. That's just my gut, so that then a nonprofit could go to the Franklin County CDC with the kitchen idea, or it could go to whatever. Again, that's up to the nonprofit. But I think you're right. We are going to need help, partnership, someone to run this thing. And I just worry that if we have an umbrella nonprofit, we're just going to get lost in the shuffle. But that's just my opinion.
Maybe we should we're into how we do when we don't yet know what we're doing. And maybe we should hear Kathy's presentation.
I think Jonathan's points have a lot of, validity to it. And I don't think having a partnership with the CDC is exclusive to having a local nonprofit that's kind of like, the stewards and the, day-to-day person, because there's a sense of, it's important to have community ownership. And, sometimes I think people in Whately think Greenfield's a long ways away, and people look more towards Northampton, so may feel a little disconnected sometimes with Franklin County, even though you're part of Franklin County. And I'm not trying to put words in people's mouth.
Actually halfway in between.
Yeah, right. And, and quite honestly, the CDC doesn't think much of, doesn't think much going south of Route 2, to be honest. Rich, you're laughing, am I right?
Not wrong.
There's a reason we subscribe to both 3/4 in the Gazette.
Well, I'm the outsider, so, but I think that's a dynamic, I think they could be a real ally. But I also think there's, perceptual and, having community, local ownership is really important.
Did
So
you
I think
have a
Jonathan's
presentation
points
to
are well made. What?
You had a presentation to make today?
Yeah. Okay, you have a presentation to make today.
Yeah,
right?
I do.
So let-
So I'd like to hear. Okay,
I'm just a little.
thank you for the lead-in. Okay, so I was charged to work with you to develop 3 or 4 scenarios, look at it we did an engineering assessment, which we talked about, in early fall. And we kind of looked at what, some of the scenarios are. So and I'm not charged with all the operational issues. I'm charged with trying to look at what is feasible in terms of building. So we had 4 scenarios. You can see, one is affordable housing, one senior housing, mixed use co-working space with childcare, mixed use co-working with timeshare kitchen. So those are the kind of 4 scenarios we've looked at. I want to say some of these are building blocks. They are concepts. So we'll look at each of them.
Right.
So,
Great.
for all the concepts, we have a common site plan. And just so you know, this is Chestnut Plain Road here on the left, so all the plans are oriented toward that. The front door is to the left, north is up, so Christian Road Extended is, would be on the top. The driveway is to the
Can you,
south. bottom of
excuse
the
me,
building.
excuse me, can you share your screen possibly or no?
Ooh,
The Blair,
in the room we're in, it's showing, so
right here and here,
hold on, we have to figure it out.
in the upper left-hand corner, you mean? I'm not sure which.
Check
one.
your different views, Jonathan.
Yeah, no, I know, but she should have one show your screen that would allow, instead of seeing her, it would show her screen.
That's well, we are seeing the screen,
Yeah.
so the system is set up correct in here. So that's why we're wondering if
Okay.
it's your computer.
Let me, I can
I'll get
turn on
to-
shared screen, hold on, I'm sorry.
Is the milk bottle slightly on?
There you go.
Okay, you got it?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so
John.
much. Thank you.
Yeah, just for saying something.
Yeah, the milk bottle's a little
The
further
milk bottle
east than
and the
everybody is.
open lawn are swapped.
No,
No,
milk bottle's pretty much in the corner.
Did I mess people up with my request?
no, not at all.
Doesn't really matter.
I think what's happened is that, I've got to reopen it. Okay.
I just lost it for whatever that's worth.
I've got to reopen them.
Now we have you, Jonathan.
Well, you know,
That, okay.
You were doing fine until you spoke up, Jonathan.
I'm sorry. I'll sit on my hands from now on.
No, I'm fine. Okay.
It's back.
Maybe we could go get it. There.
Okay, are we good now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the site plan with the orientation, the front door is facing to the left. And Chestnut Plain Road is to the left, so all, the orientation is the same with all four, so we did. A site plan, we can get easily 8 parking spaces, including 2 handicap spaces. At the rear of the building with entering in off Chestnut Plain Road. Also having enough room to pull in and over, and also a backup area.
The parking is where the playgrounds are now, is that?
Yeah, and we
Okay.
also, set aside a play area, set aside for leaching fields and septic. And of course, keep the milk bath. Those are the elevations, this is the south side, this is what the rear would be. So we'll go through each of the options. And on the affordable housing, we did we can fit 2 affordable housing units, 2 2-bedroom units. And they would be bi-level, so that the living area would be on what is where the classrooms are on the first floor. The entrance to both units would be from the front steps. And this dotted line also, and the entrance for one unit could be on the south side and another on the north side. It would also be able to exit from the rear. So you have multiple means of entrance and exit, which is required by the fire code. And this would be the ground level, so you've got a living area, you've got bath,
They're mirror units.
yeah. And this would be the second floor, or the lower level, would be where the bedrooms are. There is windows in all the bedrooms so that there's light, so it's not like it feels like a basement.
So the bedrooms would
be in the basement?
What?
The bedrooms would be in the basement?
Bedrooms would be on the lower level, and the living area would be on the classroom level.
Classroom, yeah.
Okay, so
Because we can't use the third.
You're right, that's what I
Right.
wanted to.
okay, so the plan would be to make what is currently the classroom level ground level, I mean, make a ground entrance into that level. And then from the inside, go down to the basement
Yeah, you
level.
can, each unit could have its own separate entrance, one a north entrance, one a south entrance, a common rear exit. They can,
I'm just trying to figure out the stairs, because
It looks like there's stairs to both levels, am I right?
the stairs would be near the front, their side entrances. This is a common vestibule, you could also come in that way,
But
so,
you're going up to the living area and
right.
down to the.
Think of it like a split level house where sometimes,
The way it
yeah.
is now, basically.
yeah, the way it is now, okay, so we can make affordable housing units, and the plan does not have any,
Accessibility.
because it's housing,
we don't need it.
we don't need ADA for 2 2-bedroom units.
Right.
I understand that, I just wanted to be clear what
Yeah.
was presented.
So are they 2-bedroom units? I didn't.
Two-bedroom
Yeah,
units.
Yeah.
So one unit is green and the second unit is blue.
Got it.
And what's the dotted line?
The dotted line is the circulation pattern, so you can see
Okay.
how people can get in and out of the building.
Okay,
So I know we can't put anybody up in the attic, but is that okay for storage space or no?
no,
It really can't be used for any major storage because of weight
So
considerations.
it's just boarded up or whatever somehow.
Really probably more of a ventilation area to have you'd probably want a roof fan to help vent it.
You also need access to the roof for maintenance of the
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
cupola.
I mean, you could spend money to reinforce it.
No,
but
no,
that-
I'm, I'm just thinking like if residents moved in and they're saying, but I need some storage space, but our answer would be no,
I
that
don't
attic
think
is
so.
not, okay, got it.
We had a long meeting on the engineering of it, I don't know.
I mean, both of these
No, I-
units are pretty big on housing standards. One unit's 1,521 square feet. In Eastern Mass, the standard two-bedroom unit would be about between 800 and 1,000 square feet. I think people here want a little more elbow room anyways. Unit 1,762, I mean, I would usually think of that as, a 4-bedroom unit on, just a square footage, but the way the space works, you basically have a very spacious 2-bedroom.
Yeah.
So
it
this is
seems huge.
essentially what was proposed a couple of years
Right.
ago, for all intents and purposes.
But,
Right, and
yeah, and
I'm
they're,
not sure if we're talking affordable if we're talking that much space.
Right.
Well, if we're talking grants, and what people want.
right.
I
But,
get that, but these are big.
but if you're a family that has 2 kids of the same gender, that this could really work, or if you're a family, there's certainly examples where, single parents have, used a hide-a-bed in the living room and, put, if they have, different gendered children, girls' bedroom, boys' bedroom, you could, it could provide affordable family housing.
Yeah.
So this is the layout for that.
And the affordable rents scale up as the family size.
Rents on affordable housing are really based on what is called HUD fair market rents, FMR. And they are for the Franklin County rents are scaled as to the number of bedrooms.
That's right.
So, there's studio 1, 2, and 2, and unfortunately, so on one level, defining it as a 2-bedroom means we have a lower rent than a 3-bedroom. Could you make a 3rd bedroom out of this living area? In theory, but I think having a decent sized living area makes a lot of sense on the,
Where would the kitchen facilities be?
It's right there in the middle.
Back to back, cause that saves.
Yeah.
Right in the
Sorry, I
middle.
see it, okay.
So the living area and then the kitchen is there.
So the purpose of the diagram is really to kind of test out the concept to see if we can get all the pieces of like bedrooms, bathroom, kitchen, with closets and living area. Because that living area includes, the eating area and, living room, So I think that illustrates that we can get all the concepts. The area that's the hallway, the common hallway when you first come in with the stairwell, that uses a lot of space, but it's kind of a common, the widest common area, but that dedicates that space to each of those units, but that
Right,
that
so it
gives
takes a
surplus
lot of that
space to the
front
unit.
space.
If you had one unit instead of 2, could you combine one unit into a mixed use?
You mean half of the building is 1 unit and the other half is available for for other uses?
Yes.
I'm not, I think it would be hard to finance it myself. Yeah. Let's go through all the scenarios and then talk about that, Jonathan, because I would never say no, because you gotta look, but I think the level of effort for affordable housing, people will tend to want to maximize the number of units. And really, in terms of doing family affordable housing, the maximum number of units you can get is 2 here, but the next scenario is senior, but I want to look at what some of the costs.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
All of these, I've done a placeholder on acquisition costs, because I don't know if the town wants to do a transfer or sale. I just did $10 a square foot for the building for 4,000 square feet of usable space just as a placeholder value. I'm not saying that's what the value is, I'm just using it as a placeholder. Well, I had the firm Project Management Cost do the cost estimating. They are a professional cost estimating firm. They do cost estimating on schools. They also do major development projects. They work in Western Mass as well as Eastern Mass. And what we've done is the cost estimates on here, and don't let your jaw drop too much. But they're based on what a May 2027 construction costs start.
Okay.
Because if we're thinking about trying to get a project done now, the earliest is that you could probably get into construction is spring of 2027. So we're trying to be, when you budget for this year's cost, 2025 costs, we'll be out of date in a month, okay? And we know costs are rising, so we did it for May 2027. We also did it as prevailing wage, because we're likely to get state or federal money, so we need to factor that in. If it was 100% private, we could do what we would call an open shop job, and that would probably, on your hard costs, drop it by about 30%. Just to kind of give you, and I didn't put all the variations on the slides because it gets too confusing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the hard costs include the things like the roof and
Pardon me?
the hard costs include the exterior as well as the.
The hard costs include everything in terms of like from exterior upgrades, interior upgrades, heating and ventilation. We did an all electric heating system because that's, one, you can't do there's no new gas connections, in Whately.
Gas here.
And you can use.
Not on the gas anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
And you can use propane, but there's no natural gas.
Not all through.
it includes, we did an allocation for roofing. We also did some site improvement costs, obviously the paving, we detailed that out. It also includes cost of building permits, the cost of continued.
Secretary standards?
It's soup to nuts. If I looked at it, I would sometimes maybe put a little more money in landscape, but we didn't go heavy on that.
So 5 million bucks.
So.
Okay.
Soft costs are a percentage of, soft costs includes design fees, any kind of assessments that may have to be done. That might be, it might be lower, but they always come into place. Financing costs involve, you gotta have an appraisal, you've got applications for mortgages, and just the time it takes and legal work that it takes to get all the financing together. And developers typically take a 5% developer's fees. Sometimes it's less, and that's 5% of hard costs. And a developer's fee can be included in your basis for historic tax credits as many of your soft and financing costs, but not all. So we're just under 5 million on doing 2 units of housing, which seems like real.
In the estimation of your preservation architect, is that two unit affordable housing eligible for federal tax credit?
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
I think it probably.
It's still an awful lot of money.
It's a ton of money.
They're done.
So let's look at how we might be able to, close that gap. This is what I would call a stack of funds, which is like, what are your funding sources? You know, we have the federal historic tax credit. Now, when you monetize, if a nonprofit or a public entity can't use a tax credit, but you monetize the tax credit and you get private investors involved. So there's a market for tax credits. So, and the value changes a little bit depending upon what the market is. So, there's both a state historic tax credit at 20% of basis as well as a federal historic tax credit. So I've included both. Massachusetts also has an underutilized properties program for municipal buildings that have not been used for a long time. They will give grants up to $1 million. I think depending upon what you do and where, Whately doesn't go to the Commonwealth frequently for money, so I think you may be able to make a case for it. That number, I think, is a placeholder. I think that's what you should shoot for. You know, with all of this stuff, there's always a little wiggle room, okay? So on affordable housing, LIHTC is, low-income housing tax credits. This is a competitive program.
And that's compatible with the historic preservation, you can use both.
Yeah, you can use both the state and federal historic tax credit
And the LIH.
and you can use them together.
Okay,
My experience with low-income housing tax credits is that, you usually have to apply twice to the Commonwealth because the Commonwealth allocates, every state gets an allocation. And then they get reallocated. For 2 units of housing, this is a lot of money, so that would make it less competitive.
Yeah.
But this is also an area where you have not, Whately has kind of made over the last few years, steady, incremental progress towards getting to your 10%. You're still at about 2% of,
We haven't made any progress at all.
well, you've made more progress than some of your neighbors, believe it or not. But there was additional units added to the state subsidized housing inventory. So you used to only have to, like 2, now you've got like, I think 6.
I don't know where they came from, but I'll take it.
I saw the change, I'm going, that's good news. Don't ask me, I mean,
If the state thinks we've got it, then that's.
it went up, Judy, I'll double check, I mean,
Don't.
because I remember when you first got 2 units on it, because
Right,
it was when Susan Wright was town administrator.
we've had a very,
I think if you got asked the Commonwealth for $1 million, on underutilized property, you've got to demonstrate that this is an important project to you, so you're going to need to step up with at least probably $300,000 of CPA funds, which I know is a lot of money for Whately, but that can be monetized over several years. It's not a 1 year, not 1 year.
the town would be delighted to use money for CPA money for historic.
And I also think you're gonna have to apply for small cities, CDBG. And I should eliminate the word loan there, it's not a loan, CDBG grant. And that was a typo. And I would also pursue some money with community foundations, like the Western Mass. And there's also some private foundations that would help in Western Mass for affordable housing.
the underutilized properties program requires a match.
Yeah.
And I think minimum 10%,
Would,
and the
would,
more you put in, the more you're likely to get.
Yeah, but the Western Mass, Foundation might be able, and there's also private foundations in the area. I think the challenge with this is it's only 2 units of housing, yes, so let's, this is a lot at one time, but so let's look at next
the.
senior housing.
Is the underutilized municipal property, would that apply to any of the 4 scenarios we're looking at?
Um. With, in term,
I think so.
what, you're probably gonna need a either for-profit or nonprofit developer to partner on either of the housing projects.
Yeah.
I think a key criteria in any partnership, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, is that they have experience with housing programs and getting public funding for housing programs. Cause if they're not familiar with it and haven't done it, they're gonna have a hard time. And it's the challenge that Whately has is that it's an important building to Whately. But it's also a small scale, and when, the push in Eastern Mass is build, 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 get more housing built. 2 units or 4 units seems like a small bit, but 2 units or 4 is a lot in Whately. And so I think that has to be weighed, and, I will say, I worked with Mass Housing, and got $700,000 for 4 units of affordable housing in a neighborhood in Boston. So it's not, it's not that they won't do small projects, but you gotta make the case, and it's not, but when people are starting to think, well, what's the cost of per unit? And I think most of the people involved in housing on a statewide level who are making funding decisions, these numbers would not surprise them.
So what did
Yeah.
J.D. Ross tell the housing committee? Can't do a new house for less than $700,000. I think,
Yeah, no, costs aren't,
not including the land, so, yeah.
yeah,
Anyway,
and that was not prevailing wage,
no,
we
should let you keep going.
And also what, when you get, right now we kind of did test fits. When you get to design, you can kind of, sometimes people's appetite and design wish list gets, the prices go up, but sometimes you can also tighten things. So, these are, test fit numbers, they're, so when we looked at senior housing, we can get 4 units of senior housing, 2 on each level. So the unit sizes would range, 554 square feet for some units, for 2 units, and 700 square feet for the second unit. And as you can see, this is the lower level, this is the upper level. And these are 4 units, but the green unit is 554 square feet. Blue is 700 square feet. And this also includes that X is where you would put an interior lift. So let's look at it a little more closely. This is the upper level. So
Classroom level.
it would include the main entrance coming in, from the front, or the handicap accessible entrance, from the side. On the south side, we would retain the north side entrance. You'd also have a principal rear entrance. You've got parking back here. My experience is where parking is where you live. You bring your groceries into the door that's closest to where you park your car. And the dotted line is the circulation pattern. So you could come in, if you're living here, you could exit the front door, your unit front door is here, exit there, your unit back door is to the rear.
So this keeps more of that interior vestibule common.
Yeah, so there would be a common area, not allocated to either unit. That allows all 4 units to be able to have access to the lift.
Yeah.
Which is important,
Right.
so,
No defined bedroom, but the idea is one.
so,
open
we
space.
have a handicap accessible bathrooms in both units. Closet, kitchenette, and this would be a studio, or if you did a wall, you'd have a small, it could be either a studio or efficiency, or you could put a small wall and make it a 1-bedroom. We didn't show the wall.
Yeah, that's another question, it's a lot of topic, but I do wanna ask what I'm looking at. The
So the-
bathroom in the blue unit, could that be moved to just behind the bathroom in the green unit? Was there enough space for that? I'm just thinking plumbing wise in the future, and what space will be available for downstairs? If all bathrooms in the same area.
Yeah, I mean, the floor plans are essentially the same, but the, rear access up the stairs, and there's the lift.
I suspect,
Okay. Sorry.
I suspect.
So looking at the costs on this unit, are somewhat different, that, again, acquisition costs, hard costs, and I'm going. You can write all the stuff down, but I will make all of it available to everyone. And the soft cost and developers fee, probably the more critical thing is, is to look at, the stack of funds. Again, we're using historic tax credits. I included the low-income housing tax credit, because that helps make this project work. Whereas it didn't before, and I have to double check my numbers. I see that I was doing this too late last night, so I will send an updated slide.
But these are pretty ballpark figures.
Yeah, they're very definitely ballpark figures. The concept, we've got very detailed cost estimates for what we know, but we really just did test fit plans. But if we did this so that we can get our arms around what the real costs are, what's realistic. But I can make the senior housing stack of funds work fairly easily because of the low income housing tax credit. And I think getting 4 units is probably more sellable than 2 units to funders. But I think, one of the things, if the town was going to pursue the housing option, I would probably want to get some feedback from some of the folks at, DHCD, Department of Housing, and DHLC, Department of Housing and Livable Communities, as to whether they have a greater interest in 2 family units or 4 senior units. From a needs basis and Whately, I think you could make the case that you probably need senior housing more than family housing. So I think you can make, but I think, if the committee feels strongly or the select board feels strongly about that, I think you can make that case, but I would start the conversation early with state agencies, because we're working on this, because you want to get them interested and let them know you're working on it, because then they know your project's coming along. And sometimes they'll point you out, this has come along, that it might be helpful to Whately. And one of the things about the historic tax credits, the senator from West Virginia and senator from Virginia, Warner, and I forget the woman's last name, Petite or something from West Virginia, have filed legislation federally, though it's still in committee, to increase the historic tax credit for rural areas, which would increase it to 30%.
Wow.
That would be a game changer for you, and really make a huge difference, but, and I can send you
Send the
the
reference.
legislation. It'd be worth asking
We should be in touch with our,
our federal senators to, support it. It is bipartisan. The West Virginia senator is a Republican, the senator from Virginia is a Democrat. But,
I think all of New England senators.
who knows what Congress will do? So
Yeah.
I'm not holding,
Let's
I'm not
let's
holding.
just plan ahead. Well,
But that is something, that would be a game changer, so.
Can
Yeah.
you?
But I
Who
think
did
the
you
senior
just-
housing is something that is workable, and certainly in the survey, there were people that said, they didn't say, a couple of people said definitely someone in their family was interested, but there were some of those responses, well, I don't know, or maybe.
Right, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, so I think, and what's nice about this layout is there is common space, so that it's not like you've got a
you're
small,
isolated.
and you're also on a corner and there's lots
Yeah.
of land and you can walk.
And
to
you're
the-
in a beautiful
You can walk to
historic
the
building.
post office,
Yeah,
so I'm,
Kathy, who did you say check with about 2 versus 4 buildings?
talk to the housing agency, which
Which agency?
housing agency, you said to fund out, use 2-family units preferred over 4 Z.
well, I think the town should first decide what you want.
Yeah,
But then, and,
But you referenced a specific agency, I just.
the Department of Housing and Livable Communities.
Right, Department of Housing, little.
Funding is a partnership, and you've gotta cultivate people.
Yeah.
And maybe step one, we're not there yet, but, I would brief your local elected officials, get your state rep excited about it, get your state senator excited about it. Cause they, that's another way to get funding. I know on this one 4-unit project that I referenced before, our state rep got it in the budget. And so we got, it was a $500,000 earmark that helped me close the budget on that. But that, that was after we had, 2 or 3 years of working on, and it's like, let's close the gap and make it happen, so. Don't and I did not put state earmarks on, in the stack of funds.
It's
Okay, so let's talk about mixed use. On this one, the mixed use options are co-working with exhibition gallery space and childcare. And this is the, classroom level. So the mixed use options all have a lift because it's a public use, so they have to be ADA as well as the senior. So what we suggested is that the blue area, that you have kind of a galley kitchen area, could be your coffee or kitchenette or refreshments. You've got a bathroom, you've got a large multi-use lounge seating work area that could be used for co-working space, both either, cubicle type desks or, shared table desks. It could also have lounge desks. I have some other photos that I can show you. Have a large conference room, in green, a small conference room, and also another bathroom. So that, you've got 2 bathrooms, you've got 2 separate work conference rooms. These could be rented by the day, by the hour. And on co-working spaces, you know, sometimes you have a seat at a bench, sometimes you have a desk, sometimes you have a carrel. You could provide a series of options. Having an at-large area could also allow, and what some co-working spaces allow, use their space for event space. So if you wanted to do event space perhaps on the weekend or in the evening, that might be an option. The gallery, the white would be the gallery exhibition space, which is your common area. You would keep your north and, north and south entrances. You could continue with this entrance. This would be your handicap accessible entrance, so you may want to make that as your main entrance, and this just be an overlook area. And then you also have an exit here, and you would continue with the rear exit. And this could be used for artist display and exhibitions. In terms of looking at this as childcare, we identified 2 child classroom areas. And yes, you could make one of these, you would then still have a common area. The classroom 1, which is in blue, is 473 square feet. Classroom 2 is 620 square feet. We also allocated 2,000 square foot of outdoor play space on the site plan. That then becomes the parameter on your maximum number of children you can serve, because you need 75 square feet per child of outdoor play space. So that puts you at 26. If you add another like 10 feet of outdoor, 10 or 15 feet of outdoor play space, which I think you can get up to 27 kids.
That's in both units.
Yeah, using both classrooms. So that, and this might be an example where you could make one of those a project room or reallocated that to co-working space as well. But again, you know, we thought initially you might want to think about two classrooms. So we've tried to, you know, put the pieces together so you could see it. On co-working, just kind of, you know, we were talking earlier, and I think we've covered a lot of this. On an operations level, they tend to be a membership model, day and hourly rates. Some offer monthly rents for a carrel or small office. Conference rooms are usually an additional charge. They often have what they call a community manager. So there's someone on site, at least during, you know, business hours or morning hours, kind of trying to, you know, not just manage the place, but also kind of, you know, helping to create an atmosphere and support. As I mentioned, you know, non-business hours can be used for people to work, or sometimes it's used for event rental space. Oftentimes I've seen even on major commercial, like WeWork, their business hours are like, you know, 8 to 5, and they sometimes lease, you know, for events in the evening. So it's not, but some of the features of co-working spaces, they offer reception. Sometimes they are a mail drop for businesses who want to make address, and they collect a small fee. Printing and copying is sometimes available. Whiteboards, projectors, AV equipment. Some co-working spaces also set aside a podcast lab, so people could create podcasts. They all seem to have a light refreshment coffee bar area. Some have a quiet area, some have designated quiet areas, designated collaborative social areas, so that, if people are working on their phone, they can be in the social area. If they need quiet space to write, they've got a quiet area. And this is just some various photos of co-working space that this one on the left is, from Shelburne Falls, that above McCusker's Market, they did the third floor as co-working space. And they put a lot of carols in it. And it was really, in my mind, a leasing strategy, but, go for it. I thought it'd be helpful to talk a little more about childcare. I did two different types of estimates. There's ACS's Census American Community Survey 5-year estimates. I looked at the number of children, number of people living in Whately who are less than 5 years old. And that's based on 2023. Was 44. I also looked at Deerfield and all the adjacent towns, and and UMDI is the UMass Donahue Institute, and they've done population projections. The 2023 is the most recent census data available for Whately. But I thought it would be helpful to look at what UMass Donahue did for projecting population, and they did 0 to 5 years, which is slightly different than less than 5 years. But did similar numbers. In childcare feasibility, you usually look at 80% of the children probably need some type of childcare, daycare. So I looked at the number of kids using the 23 census estimate and also the 80% estimate of the UMass Donahue. So in theory, Whately needs anywhere from 35 to 45 childcare seats. Deerfield needs 85 to 106. If we look at all 6 towns, we're talking about 412 to 420, that kind of numbers. So let's look at what we have. Whately does not have any licensed childcare centers, including no family daycare centers and no large group. Deerfield has quite a number of slots. There's 144 slots, and slots are the number of children that a provider is licensed for. So some family daycares only have for 3 or 4, 6 or 8. Once you get to 10 or more, a family daycare can go up to 10, but 10 usually is also the start of large daycare centers. Every public school in Whately, in the Whately area and the 5 towns has some kind of preschool program. And so Whately has 15 kids enrolled in preschool at the Whately Elementary. That's based on 24-25 enrollment data. Deerfield has 27 and there's 142. So I kind of looked at, that's what's the existing map. So there's basically 15 slots available for kids in Whately, and we've got more kids than slots. Deerfield is the inverse. They have more slots than kids, and that's in large part because Deerfield Academy operates a preschool as well. And Old Deerfield also operates a preschool. So that those are 2 large, they have several large preschools. one of the things I think is also notable is because you've got Yankee Candle has a lot of employees in Deerfield. And there's also, with the Deerfield Industrial Park, there is probably demand of people who work in Deerfield that is filling some of the need, some of the slots in Deerfield, so I only looked at resident children. I did not look at, make any projections on the number of kids of employees who work in the area. So I just, but that's another course. So, and this is the number of providers and on childcare slots. So there's 17 providers in the 6 towns with 222 slots, 11 family daycare providers and 6 large group. And this does not include the schools. That's separate. That, because they're licensed by the school department, the Department of Education, which is different than childcare.
And did your analysis look at, with the square footage at our disposal in both classrooms, what our number of slots might be in each classroom and what age group?
The requirements for it's 35 square feet per child, minimum of 150 square feet. So both classrooms meet the minimum threshold by the state licensing regs. But as I said, what I found was that the controlling parameter was the requirement for 75 square feet of outdoor play space. And you've got, we set aside 2,000 square feet, so that would serve 26 to 27 children.
Right. And then you've also got to think about with infants, you have a 7-to-1 teacher to infant ratio that's mandated by law, and then a little higher ratio for older children. But there's a financial aspect to that. In addition to square footage, it's the teacher child ratio, and
Right.
that's an affordability issue.
I think that's an important point. I've got the data on the number of infant versus preschool slots, and that's really what I focused on. There is a need for also school aged after school care sometimes. And that infants tend to be a higher rate, and sometimes after school tends to be a higher rate. But after school also tends to have you have more competition of other activities. And originally, when we first talked about childcare, it was like, could it be almost drop-in childcare where people who wanted to co-work, they could bring their kid. And there is no, I think there's only one childcare provider in the 6 towns that will take like emergency childcare or, one day at a time, so that intermittent childcare services is not available.
So look at the cost here,
So what are the costs?
5 million.
So we're at a little over $5 million for costs, 5.2 if we round up. I think what's different about this is that CDAC, which is the Community Economic Development Assistance Corporation, is a statewide quasi-public agency. And it has the elementary education capital grant. That would require a nonprofit partner. They will not do grants to municipalities, but they do a capital grant for childcare. And I think it is possible to get it. And, you know, the size and number of children is, you know, they've done very small projects as well as larger projects. So they've done family daycare as well as large daycare providers. They also provide, technical assistance as well as some pre-development, but I looked at capital grant. Again, I think you could make a case for, on foundations and fundraising for co-working and childcare. There's been a lot of focus on the need for childcare, to enable parents to work and the cost of childcare. So that is a funding interest in the philanthropic community, as well as the state. And the other issue on that is that co-working space can really be viewed as an economic development activity. Both of these activities would fall under allow things for USDA and US Department of Agriculture community facilities. And I think you might want to think about a grant and loan program in terms of that. The community facilities grant, you are limited to 15% cost because the median income of Whately is relatively high to the non-metropolitan in a median income. Fortunately, you're less I can get you 15% grant, you know, you can get a 15% grant, but you can't get much more grant money from USDA from community facilities. But community facilities also provides for 40-year loans, which is helpful from an operations perspective. And their interest rate is competitive, is fairly competitive. It's not quite market rate, but it tends to be close. So you can get a stack of funds that is workable. And again, I've been using 300,000 for CPA funds. And I know that's a big commitment for Whately, but when you're asking for the level of funding from the Commonwealth, I think it shows that you're interested. And also on the community facilities grant from USDA, there's a 25% local match requirement. And that, and I'm sorry, I misspelled federal there. That local match could be, you can use, it's matching funds, it doesn't have to be local. So if you have a commitment from CDAC or if you have a commitment from the small city CDBG, that would be helpful. The one thing, if you can get the commitment from the town early, on most of these grant programs, very few like to be the first money in. So if they know someone else, if you already have a commitment, that kind of leverages and you get more points and you're more likely to, because it shows, the town's committed, which I think sends a strong message to the Commonwealth. And the other part is, then when you get to the leveraging part of the grant application, you can score fairly well, which is really important from a funding perspective. And CDBG tends not to be first money in. CDAC often will be early money in. USDA can sometimes be early money in, but they're also gonna want a 25% project commitment.
Could I ask a couple questions? I'm wondering where rural economic development grants fall into this list, and also how confident are you? Seeing USDA monies involved make me nervous because you're subject to federal votes.
Well, Yeah, what, I mean. I'm just trying. USDA, I don't, you know, everything federal these days is in play. Tax credits, for the most part, don't seem to being touched by the current administration. USDA, you know, it's not that USDA hasn't taken some hits on funding. But it has fairly strong support, that's bipartisan, so I'm not as worried about USDA funding as I am other parts of the federal budget, so I don't think it's
Okay.
unrealistic. You know, on all of these things, nothing is a sure thing, and, you know, the federal funding, you know,
Right.
everything is in flux, and because the federal funding on so many programs is in flux, that is going to start to ripple down to the Commonwealth, so that's the whole nature of public funding. I will say, because of the changes in the big beautiful bill to the SNAP Act, which is food stamps, having a program that addresses, food security, which you could make a case for, a community a timeshare kitchen, adding some food security. That might be able to
We haven't
facilitate.
gotten to that.
What about rural economic development?
So, but that's the next one, but, you know, Jonathan, you're right, nothing's a sure thing, and yeah.
And there may be other
Yeah.
grants too. She's given us a nice list.
Right, but so these pages, though, the stack of funds, it's not an estimated cost, it's their possible
This is-
incomes.
This is incomes to get to the cost.
Right,
I
okay.
get that, yeah.
This is looking at a capital budget. None of these are operating budgets.
Right.
So, let's look at the mixed use two. And we've done a basic layout. It's very, and the mixed use two, the level one, the upper level is the same in both mixed use options. And we're talking about a commercial grade kitchen. We've got a freezer area up here.
So the kitchen takes the place of the childcare essentially in the layout.
Yeah, this would be, the lower level would not be a childcare center. This, it could be a timeshare kitchen instead.
Can you mix
And
with,
if you wanted to, you could make the childcare center on level one and, you know,
Yeah.
The upper level and timeshare kitchen on the lower level.
could you mix those two?
What?
Would you be able to mix those two, having childcare on top and then have, you know, anything that has fire?
She just said.
Yeah, I
Why
know,
not?
but it just seems like it wouldn't. The potential of fire and issues of that nature with children, I think that would be my concern. But if it's not a concern state-wise, then I guess that's absolutely consider it.
You would probably want the kitchen on the lower level because it's easier to vent it,
Yeah,
because you've got external windows.
all right, I'm sorry. Didn't interrupt.
But we've got freezer, refrigeration here.
And your estimate of the cost includes the kitchen expenses.
And,
But she hasn't gotten to the cost.
I know, but when
yeah,
presumably,
and I will say my cost estimator is still working on the timeshare kitchen cost estimates, so I don't have the stack of funds for that, but my rough guesstimate is that the timeshare kitchen option would be at probably another $300,000 more
yeah.
than the
Right.
childcare option. Cause you've got more equipment and you've got more venting.
Yeah, yeah, and that area, as I recall, has a serious mold problem. I mean, I think if you're gonna put a kitchen down there,
Well, that's-
be a lot of
Well,
That's
I think the
drainage
mold
through the
problem
kids,
was
too.
related to
Yeah,
water leaks
you're
and
right.
drainage.
Never mind, never mind.
And we did, there's gotta be some cleanup.
Yeah, the drainage has to be fixed, I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Regardless of what goes down there,
Yeah.
have to take care.
So that's the overview, so we've done the 4 physical scenarios, we've done 3 cost scenarios, and. That's kind of the big picture,
That's a real help.
Yeah, I did.
and I know it's a lot to absorb, so what my time frame was, I wanted to give you the big picture. Peter's asked me to get a written report done by the end of the year, so I got it right. But, you know, Rich and I have agreed to go visit, Franklin County CDC on the 7th. So I'm kind of wrapping up, but I'm happy to kind of help point to, we've covered a lot of things today. Whether it's the importance of partnerships, the role of having a local committee or, that could grow into a nonprofit or management entity. You know, operations questions, but this kind of gives you a handle on the capital costs.
Yeah, no,
And
eye-opening.
you can argue, people might say, you know, well, I don't like this bathroom configuration, or I want the bathroom here, the kitchen there. These are, I think the way to think about the diagrams is there's test fits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're concepts, they're,
Right.
this is what you could do. For
And
this
the
amount.
cost estimates are about 10 pages each, so they're very detailed, so you can see that we've really thought through all the issues.
And that will all be in the final report.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna go through 30 pages of stuff.
Yeah.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, fantastic.
extremely useful.
Yeah, this is great. This is really good.
And I know you're always asking for good questions, Jonathan, so I appreciate that. So, I mean, but I think this gives you the tools to mix it up, and I know when you did your original RFP, you indicated you wanted, you know,
The landing, the top.
perspectives or drawings. I think it might be helpful at some point in time to have what I call a cell diagram, a cell picture. Because a picture can be worth 1,000 words, and if you're trying to generate support. But I think you've got to figure out a little more about what you want. And then you can, you know, ask someone to do a rendering.
Can we talk about sort of where we
No, I see.
go from here in terms of this committee's role in figuring out what we want, having all this information and.
On the utility cost, I don't.
Well, we got 2 conversations going on.
Oh, yeah, can we,
That's all right. I'm just, so we've been now given 4 scenarios with a lot of information. And our charge is to go, you know, what do we do with this? Are we presenting a conclusion of what this committee recommends? Are we asking the select board to look at this and give us more guidance? What's the
First, we wait
process?
for the final report,
Yeah,
and after that, I would suggest that we take the 4 options to the select board and get feedback from them, and then reconvene and think what we want, or ask, but Kathy
Judy,
probably has.
I'd reverse that. I would think about sending to the select board what we believe our 1 through 4 list is and why, and give them something more concrete to
Okay.
provide feedback to.
Fair enough.
is there a 5 though? Is there?
well, there could be 20.
Right.
But, you know,
An infinite number of options.
there can be an infinite number of options, but should we spend any time discussing some combination? I mean, this is the question Rich started to ask, some combination of these options.
Well, let's schedule a time for us to discuss what we like and don't like.
Yeah, I agree
And-
with that.
And that should fall out of that.
Okay,
Well, Kathy will finish her job and will be outdoor and we're left to try to take this into a proposal.
When is that final report to?
End of the year. So,
Soon, all right.
I mean, maybe that's what, maybe I can get that in and submit it and then send it to you as well as Peter.
I think he needs
And then
something to
maybe you
send
could
to the,
discuss it and,
he needs something to send to the National Trust.
right,
I
Yeah.
think you could polish it a little after that.
well, we're trying to meet all those deadlines.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to meet in the first half of January. I think Rich and I are gonna go to talk with the CDC, but that way, maybe you can all read it, look at it, talk amongst yourselves. If you want to do another meeting in early January, that's fine.
you have a time for that, January 7th?
I don't recall the time. I just know we met with Doug, when I talked with Caitlin, she suggested that I confirm with you that I'm available on the 7th, and I've
Right.
done that. But I don't know if there was a particular time available, so she,
She suggested that time, so.
What time?
7th,
She
No,
suggested,
January 7th at 11:30.
Okay.
11:30, there we go.
Okay.
I don't recall the time frame associated with that, but I did discuss that with her on the telephone.
well, maybe the afternoon of the seventh.
But if you want to meet the following Wednesday, that works too.
Or later the same day, so you don't have to make 2 trips?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing it the same day. I mean,
No,
but
that'd be good.
but let's
We
then
could
do,
accommodate
you know,
that.
That,
I'm flexible on that.
I looked at, it's a Tuesday, wasn't? No, it's a Wednesday. So we won't have Caroline, but maybe we don't need her
I think number
anyway.
one, we need to get Caroline involved with
Yeah, I think we should not,
ASAP.
especially in the discussion meetings, so.
Okay,
We would be happy to let you attend by Zoom for this one, if we schedule it for a different day.
yeah, I would rather, in the evening, to be honest, I'd rather do it by Zoom.
Well, it doesn't have to be
Doesn't
evening,
have to
but,
be
but,
evening, but
but the later in the day it gets, the more dark it is
Yeah.
to draw. And
When are we saying? I'm lost, you guys. I'm sorry. When are we saying we will be?
we're saying, we were looking at the possibility of doing a group meeting the same day. Kathy's already coming out here to look at the CDC kitchen, which I can also come to. But that is also on a Wednesday, so we could not ask Caroline to participate in that. So we're talking about a different time where she could.
Okay.
And am I right? That was Monday and
Yeah.
Tuesday that she's in the office?
I thought it was Tuesday.
I thought it was Tuesdays and Thursdays. She's remote Monday and Friday.
Tuesdays.
Okay,
Right, and then I want that to be in person with her.
Yeah,
okay, so we're looking for a Tuesday or Thursday, is that what we just said?
yeah.
Okay. So,
If it's an
Let's set that.
evening, it's probably better for me on Tuesday than Thursday. Or at least the second, because I think I have a meeting on the second.
can we actually
Yes.
set a date right
second
now that
Thursday.
people have their calendars?
But I can do Thursday during the day.
Can't we just stick to our 10:30 time and do it on this Tuesday, Thursday? Like,
Jonathan,
Yes.
do you have time during the day on Tuesdays or Thursdays?
Kathy said
Depends
Thursday.
it depends upon the day, but I can make it work. I would prefer, I think that logistically, and I think I heard someone say that Tuesdays are better than Thursdays.
Kathy
I
said
said
it
that
about the
just-
evenings.
Oh, I see.
We'll do Thursday during the day,
Why don't we do Tuesday the 13th sometime during the day?
because she said Thursday she could do.
I thought
Oh,
she
I'm
said-
sorry, Thursday, I'm sorry, Thursday the 5th, sorry.
Thursday evening, I can't.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. So
She can do,
daytime on
Tuesday.
the Tuesday, the 13th.
I would have to check I'm
I won't
sure
be
it's gonna
here.
work, but I'd have
You
to
will
look at my
not.
calendar.
no, it's my granddaughter's birthday. I won't be here.
Okay,
I could do Thursday of that week, but I won't be here on the 13th.
Okay, Thursday, the 15th. Okay, we're gonna put that in tentatively.
Okay, Thursday.
Everybody, please check.
Okay.
Uh,
10:30.
Yeah,
Tax day.
right. Okay, so our next steps will be to review all of this, which we will get a copy of. And then meet and discuss. Rank our preferences and decide if we wanna redesign, make a fifth concept design. Does that sound right?
You wanna be careful about, ranking might be a good process, but I think when you start, you're also gonna need to find allies and partners and in that process, things evolve.
Okay,
So,
that's right where I was going next.
Yeah,
Is part of what we also need to do next is search for possible partners. And
Right.
have some discussion around that, and, I mean, I probably don't know any, but. Everybody who can generate ideas on that. Including contacts, that will be very helpful.
I can list some potential types of partners. You know, we've talked about Franklin County CDC. I think Franklin County, Regional, Housing and Redevelopment Authority and they're in Turner's Falls. They have a countywide mission. They would be a potential partner on housing, or possibly mixed use. There's a Habitat for Humanity, if you're in, they tend to do home ownership. Both of these financing models are based on rental. But that's also another option.
maybe you could include those in your final report, that would.
Yeah, I'll include that in the final report.
Right.
I don't know, is this part of your job description, but. I wouldn't know how to approach any of these places. I don't know if you have like a template of, when you, call or email or whatever, you know what I mean?
No, I think that's a good
Yeah,
question.
I'm not gonna, hi, is George there? You know?
Well, I think you've, first wanna get some of your select board members and your leadership in town. Because I think it does make a difference being a committee versus an elected official. So something when there's a phone call from a select board member or from Peter, I think people may respond a little differently than,
Right,
you know,
falling down on really.
Kathy, you know,
right.
citizen or, you know, whomever. So I think, so I think there's a little bit of that, and sometimes it might be just a letter of introduction saying, from Peter saying, well, you know, please talk to, so that they know it's the town.
Right,
And not just like, hi,
well, exactly,
Right.
yeah.
And sometimes it's personal connections make a difference, so I would say that, and I think some of it is, I just wanna come and talk to you about an exciting project and, get your feedback and see if you might be interested, or if you might have suggestions. I mean, it's really a conversation, and, and I think that's where in person, and I think sometimes, you'll also have the report, the other thing is, you have a really nice location, so inviting people to Whately is always a good thing to do, say, you you should see this old school we've got, it's got a lot of potential. And, it's also in a walkable area, it's a very charming location. And that's part of yourself, but it's also in the center of town, so you could do that mixed use and have that commercial aspect, but it also is comfortable with residential, so you've got, the location's a big plus.
Okay, can we just, before we run out of time, are there other agenda items for the 15th?
I think it's mainly to discuss the findings. I mean, we've heard what the findings are, but there'd be more detail in it.
Study them in depth and we could just,
We should probably talk about whether we wanna think then about whether we wanna apply for the Mass Historic Commission Preservation Project
Yes,
grant
yes.
or not.
Make that, I wanted to discuss that today, but we had a lot of other things going
Yeah.
on.
Okay,
And I
well,
think once we have a project and a conceptual
Yeah.
budget, that becomes realistic.
okay. Okay, I think we're good. Okay. So. We're planning on 10:30, January 15th, unless.
Yeah.
Anybody communicates quickly that that's a problem day. Good.
Get it on Caroline's calendar.
Yeah.
Email her right now,
Do you know her last name?
and she told us, but
She did it, it starts with G and ends in EK, but it's Gulick or something like
this is
that.
a new recipe.
Yeah. Well, if she told us, I'll read it again.
yeah, Gurek.
Gulick, okay.
Could be Slavic.
Tuesday, so,
He thought
okay.
it was Polish.
Sure. The G,
G-U-R-E.
oh, it's G.
Well, there's an anglicized,
Yeah, who knows?
looks like they Slavic.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys, I have to jump. I apologize. Thank you.
No,
No, I.
Oh,
we're-
happy holidays, Jonathan.
You too.
And
Take care.